everyone, I'm Hrishita, a Year 1 Aerospace Engineering student at HKUST. I'm a student whose mind lives in the sky, but someone who still manages to let lecture contents fly above her head. During my first semester at UST, I started missing the girl energy I always had back in my all-girls school. So I was excited to record a podcast with Professor Rhea, my favorite and one of the best professors at the School of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at UST. I hope you like our conversation on the lack of female representation in fields of STEM. Professor Rhea did her master's from MIT and her PhD from the University of Toronto. And there could not be a better role model for me and for the other girls listening to our conversation. In this discussion, we touch upon topics which go beyond STEM, including family expectations, challenging conventions, the importance of female role models, but of course also why we need more female representation in STEM. Because remember, when you educate a woman, you educate a generation. So, if you go and Google search leading women in aerospace engineering Hong Kong in the Google tab, the first tab you see, which shows up, says Women in Engineering Meet Professor Rhea Liem, quote unquote. And I could not be more glad to invite her as our guest today. Her roles and contributions in the field of aerospace engineering inspire young girls like me to pursue this field. So today we'll be talking about the lack of female representation in fields of STEM. And given your busy schedule, so we'll just dive right into the topic and begin with you sharing your STEM experience.
Okay, well, first, thank you for the introduction. It's an honor to be here, and especially because I taught her in a class last year, and now, she's interviewing me. So in terms of my journey in STEM, I would say that it started when I was really young. I'm very lucky that I have very supportive parents. So in my family, there are 3 girls and 1 boy, and for a few years it's just my sister and me. And I remember my father teaching us STEM when before we could even read and write, I believe. And the way he taught us STEM was very natural. He just explained things around the house and, how the television works. Do you think there are people behind the box? And let's go outside and I'll teach you about magnet. So that's actually my early memory of family and also about learning STEM. So I'm very lucky. I think that will be the biggest influence in my STEM journey because my parents are always supportive. It's not like they're forcing us to like STEM, but they expose us to different things, STEM, arts, literature, and they let us choose what we like.
That's so interesting. I think you've brought up a very interesting point here that your parents were very supportive of you pursuing this field.
Exactly.
And
yes.
Encouraging you in your interests. So I think it'll be fair to say, right, that the immediate surroundings in the vicinity of a child really impacts their career decisions in the long run.
Yes, I believe so because in addition to my very supportive family, I think my high school education provided a really good learning environment for me during my formative years because that's, I was in high school when I was 15 to 18, and that's when a lot of teenagers really want to find their own identity. And in my school, they actually provided us some programs to, for the self-discovery. And during the journey, I realized that I really like STEM. And being in a girls' school, they didn't have any boys to compare us to. So I think that is actually a very good thing because, in co-ed school, I think they might expect the boys to do well or to do better in mathematics and physics and other science classes. But in girls' schools, we compete among girls. So there's no notions of who will be better in what. And so basically, I think to sum up my early childhood educations or upbringing, I would say early educations, nobody in my immediate surrounding ever questioned my decision to go for STEM. So I think in that case, I consider myself very lucky because not many girls have that kind of experience.
I mean, even I feel lucky as well, in the sense I had a supportive family as well. I do. And about your point of from being an all-girls school, reminds me of a story. Not really a story. I mean, this happened last semester in fall. So basically, before what I'm about to say, you should know I come from an all-girls school as well. And I really didn't face many gender inequality issues as such in my high school years. But I enter Professor Rhea's MEC 1907 lecture hall fall semester. A highly recommended course, by the way, 10 on
Thank
10. So I enter, and I could not help but notice that the number of girls in the lecture hall, it was almost as if I was searching for an oasis in the middle of a desert. Yeah, and so I want to ask you, like, if you see a lecture hall with a majority of boys, like I did, do you ask yourself the same questions like I did? That why aren't there many girls? Are they not interested? And is this field male dominated? Like, does it bother you? Or do you question all of this?
To be honest, at least in your class, you could still see a few girls. I think when I studied mechanical engineering in undergraduate, I think I found myself being the only girl in the room. But at that time, I think again, it didn't bother me at all, and I think that's again thanks to my family. I think my parents, they taught us to really know what we want and be confident enough to pursue it, whatever it is. Like, it doesn't have to be STEM. So when I found myself in the room of all boys, and like the professor could always single me out because I was so distinct, just because being a female. And I honestly, I didn't really feel anything about that. But then at the university, that's also the first time I got questions from others, like, how do you feel being the only girl? How do you feel pursuing mechanical engineering? Are you planning to pursue this career in the future? And I said, yes, of course, because I like it. And they say, but you are the only girls. And I was like, so what? I have the same qualifications, like we go to the same classrooms, we go from the same professor. So what make me different from others? Yeah. And back then, I think as a mechanical engineering student, we had to do, like, I believe, nowadays students have to do this also. We went to the machining rooms and we did everything ourselves. And, I think if people saw me differently back then, honestly, I didn't realize that because I was so focused on what I really like, which is, what is in front of me, the specimens that I have to machine from all these tools. I just got excited about what I could do. And honestly, if you focus on that, you don't really care about others.
That's amazing. Yeah. Like, I mean, the focus and your passion for the field was enough to keep all those distractions away. Yeah.
So I think that's partly or mostly because, my parents never questioned it.
Yeah. Okay. So as a student, I feel you were able to, like, eliminate all these. They weren't really issues. They didn't really bother you, right?
Yes.
But now that you're a professor, like, do you feel it's your duty to do something about it? Or, like, attract more girls to the STEM fields? Or just actually act upon these questions?
I see. Yes. So a few years ago, when I just became a professor, I went to Indonesia to give a talk at a symposium. And surprisingly, after my talk, a lot of female students actually approached me, and they told me, wow, you are the first female engineer who can give such an interesting talk. And actually, some of them say that I always wanted to be an engineer, but I decided not to because my parents say there's no room for female engineers in the workspace. And then, so basically, a lot of people, including their own professors, discourage them to pursue engineering. So to me, that is an eye-opening experience because growing up, I was never really aware of such hindrances, but the conversation with those girls really opened my eyes. And when I came back to SKUSC, I think I tried to be more aware of, the female students. I tried to talk to them. And indeed, some of them still experience that. Some of them have, like, I have one student. I met one student, female student. She is local Hong Kong, and she told me that her parents actually told her, if you want to pursue a master in aerospace engineering, then you pay for it yourself. We are not going to support you. But if you are pursuing other master degrees, then we'll be happy to support you.
Oh my God.
So that experience, that really that is really different from what I've experienced. And then, when I had a surface trip to Cambodia, I think the situation was similar. The girls over there didn't think that they could actually pursue this kind of career. I think since then I try to talk more to female students, and I think just by being myself, just by teaching in front of the classroom, naturally female students will come to me. So I think that means that the role model. The role model is actually very important, because not all girls had the same good experience and as I did when I grew up.
So I think, the university, as well as professors like you, the university is doing a good job in bridging this gender gap, right? Like I did some of the research, as in we have female hackathons, and we have events where professors give lectures, and I feel it's very important to have a female role model, so that the young girls and like the people, the aspirants, they can actually look up to them and be confident in the fact that if she can do it, I can do it too.
Yes, exactly.
And even though people might have like demotivating parents or who do not encourage them, I think they'll be daring enough in that case to pursue their field if they have role models like this.
Yeah, I think a role model is important to realize that they can actually pursue their passion. Because first and foremost, I think it is important for the younger generations to realize what their passions are. And, like the student that I mentioned to you before, so she actually paid for her own tuition to take MSc.
That's great.
But actually, I know that her parents are more than capable of affording her study, but because she really wants to do it. So I think we definitely need to encourage those girls, and basically not just those girls, but basically everybody, boys and girls, to pursue what they really are passionate about, not what the society tell them to do.
Okay, so like what the society tells them to do and all these issues and stuff, do you think it transcends into a bigger problem at the workplace, as in it creates more gender gaps at the workplace? For example, like in your case, can you tell me, in your professional environment, how many female professors do you interact with and how many male?
I think in my field, definitely there are more male than female practitioners and professors. And but my master supervisor is a female herself. So I think being supervised by a very strong, very talented female supervisor, that kind of helps me as well. And when I was working at a company before I went to grad school, I was also the only female in the room. And while most of my colleagues were very supportive, there were always this one or two who tried to challenge me, why are you being here? But I think, since then, I think I learned how to deal with it.
You took it up as a challenge and like...
Not really. I actually, and this might actually be the tip to other female or minority who face the same situation.
Okay.
So when I was a young engineer, right, fresh from undergraduate, I, one of the manager from the other team actually called me and asked me, are you sure you can handle this job? And I said, why? Because you're junior and you're a female. But I believe he was actually emphasizing on the fact that I was a female engineer, and I might be the first female mechanical engineer that he ever met before. So anyway, so the way I answered it, and it actually came from my curiosity, because, I was not really aware of the gender discrimination because of my immediate surrounding, like my family, my high school, my friends. They're all very supportive. And then when he challenged me that questions, then I challenged him back. I got a first class honors from the top university,
wow.
and like I can tell you my CV. I have the same training as the other fresh graduate who work under your team. So can you tell me what differentiates me from him? And that actually, I could really see that he was taken aback. But since then, I learned that the way to handle this problem or this issue whenever it comes up is to challenge back, to ask questions, to demand the other person to explain. So what do you mean by that? Can you explain why female is lacking than male?
Wow. This is really a strong point you brought up, as in we just gotta be more brave.
Yes, exactly. Because we know
Yeah.
our values, right? We
Yeah.
know our values, we know what we really like.
That's great.
And this is actually really, goes with what you say earlier, that the society dictates. So this is actually the evidence that they just follow what the society tells them. So when you challenge them and they, oh yeah, why actually, why do I think that female is lacking than male?
Yeah.
So when you challenge them, they cannot really answer because there are no reasons.
Okay, so like I think we can conclude that if you have a good guidance and if you have good role models to look up to, then you're lucky. If you don't happen to have one, then you just gotta fight back. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to your curiosity and your passion in the field. So, is there anything you would like to tell the audience on an ending note or something?
Okay, so I think one thing that I think is important is that female also need to know their worth. And it doesn't mean that all females have to pursue science and engineering. I think, but everybody needs to realize that each of us has our own value. And it is important to be well educated. It doesn't mean that you need to have a high degree, but to actually know how to learn and now know how to educate ourselves, to know about the society, to know about what's going on, to know about how to think critically. And a lot of people, I've seen this a lot, and to be honest, this bothers me. A lot of people say that why do you get such a high degree? At the end of the day, you'll be taking care of kids and taking care of homes.
Okay.
But in my opinion, actually, mothers need to be well educated. Mothers need to know how to educate herself and also to educate the kids, because this is related to what we discussed earlier, that the first environment, the first exposure that the kids experience are very important to how they chart their own future.
So we've taken a full circle, and
Yes,
you've given us a whole new topic to explore, but we won't go deep into it. But I mean, it's such a valid point. I completely agree to the fact that the woman needs to be well educated, because she will be responsible for her
the kids.
children's career. And I think
Not really career. I think the children's life and happiness. And again, by well educated, it doesn't mean that every female has to get a PhD or a master. No, I think you by reading books or talking to people, that is you educating yourself, like broadening your horizon. And I think that is important. Yeah, it's not really about the degree. I think
this is the highlight of our podcast. I mean, this is what the audience should take back. And on a closing note, I just wanted to bring up this quote by Marie Curie. Everyone already knows who she is, and she's the first woman to actually win a Nobel Prize and the first to win it twice. So I was taught that the way of progress was neither swift nor easy, she said. And I think resonating with this topic, this quote stands true. And the only way out of facing all these issues is a way through it.
Yes.
And so on an ending note, to all the talented people listening to this podcast, so we just gotta be strong, focused and passionate.
Yeah, passionate is important.
Yeah. So thank you, Professor Rhea, for your sharing today
My pleasure.
and your views on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.